Yo, what's up, Broncos country? How's it going tonight, guys? So, me and Muhammad didn't really get a chance to do a video last week. We were both really busy. We just didn't have time to get on, before the Super Bowl or after the Super Bowl. I made a video during the week talking about some of the things, a little bit about the Super Bowl and some other things, from sports talk shows I heard. But first thing I want to get gut reaction. Muhammad, what was your gut reaction to the Super Bowl last Sunday?
To be honest, Eddie, like I honestly thought the Chiefs gonna win, by getting help to win by the refs, as everybody was talking about. But surprisingly, the Eagles did not give him a chance. They just kept on coming. That defense of the Eagles, just handicapped the Chiefs. They couldn't do anything, pretty much. Did I expect the Eagles to win? They are the better team, in my opinion. I always thought they were, but like I said, I just didn't think that they'll let that happen. They were, I think the NFL for the ratings and all that, they wanted the. I thought they wanted the Chiefs to win. Maybe that was the goal, but just the Eagles did not give them a chance. Hey, I'm happy. It just tells you that the Chiefs had no business being on the Super Bowl. It showed. It did show. It could have been all these other teams, I know we're talking about it before we went live, but it could have been the Bills or even, the Texans. They played well enough, but all these calls didn't go their way. So we know how that goes. But I don't think the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl again anytime soon.
Yeah, most of the people that watch my video during the week last week, I agree with you. Like, there's no way they're gonna make the Super Bowl next year. I will put money on it right now that the Chiefs do not make the Super Bowl. Now, will they make playoffs? Maybe. I think they still might sneak into the playoffs, but I don't think they're gonna make the Super Bowl. Um, but yeah, it was. I still think the NFL is rigged to a certain extent, but I mean, I'm sure you saw it, Muhammad, before the Super Bowl even happened, after that Bills game, especially. People were talking about boycotting the Super Bowl. It was all over TV. It was all over Twitter. It was all over Facebook. It was everywhere. People were just sick and tired of seeing the Chiefs get those calls in the games. And, you got people out here saying, oh, well, the Chiefs, that just happens sometimes. And, what do you mean? The Chiefs get called more penalties than the other team. It's like, no, bro. Like, maybe they do, but also the context of the penalty matters. Not just what the penalty is, but when in the game does that penalty take
Exactly.
place.
Exactly.
And for the Chiefs, it's always in crucial moments, like they need like a 3rd and 10 or a 3rd and 15, and they wind up coming up short, and there's a flag, and it gives the Chiefs an automatic first down. Or, you know, even like on offense, like if the Eagles need to pick up 5 yards and they pick it up, there's a holding on the offense, or whatever, or pass interference on the offense or something. And honestly, early in that Super Bowl, they did throw a flag on the Eagles. It was a offensive pass interference on, I think it was AJ Brown. They said
Mm-hmm.
he pushed off when he clearly didn't push off. And after that, you got no more calls. Like, the game in the Super Bowl was actually called fairly. And this just goes to show you, when the game is called fair and the Chiefs ain't getting these ticky tack bullshit, phantom calls, they get destroyed. Now, that's a credit to Philly too. Like, like, they're probably the best team in the NFL roster wise. I wouldn't say coach. Like, I really still don't like Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's that great of a head coach. But this team is stacked with talent. Saquon, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith on the defense, Jalen Carter, Braun. You got all these players on defense, especially those two young guys in the secondary. Who was it? I forgot his name. The white corner that picked it off, which was history, by the way, in the Super Bowl. The first white corner to pick off a
Mm-hmm.
ball and run it back for six. Um, so this team was stacked with talent. It really was. And to me, it just proved the Chiefs did not belong there. They got away with all these calls all year long to get to this point. And then finally, when the NFL fans had enough and demanded a fair game be called in the Super Bowl, a fair game got called in the Super Bowl. And look what happened. The
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs got absolutely destroyed. Now, some people want to look at the score like, oh, it was 40-22. They didn't get beat that bad. Mahomes didn't have that bad in stats. Garbage time. That was literally after the Eagles already had a comfortable enough lead. They literally threw their backups into the game. They had Kenny Pickett in there playing quarterback. They had all their backup defensive guys in there playing. That was like with 4 minutes left to go in the game, and the Eagles were up 40-6 or 34-6 or something. And it was over. The Eagles were like, hey, just put our backups in.
Yeah.
Mahomes played like ass in that Super Bowl. Just like even a couple years ago when he played against Eagles. Jalen Hurts outplayed him for a second time this year.
Yeah.
Mahomes is garbage in the Super Bowl. And honestly, this whole season, he's been garbage. He has not been good. It's been the defense, honestly, the last 2 years carrying the Chiefs. And honestly, I'm happy. Like, I couldn't have been more excited. Now I can actually enjoy the offseason, not having to worry about the Chiefs being 3-time Super Bowl champions, back to back to back, knowing that their dynasty, their team is starting to crumble. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. And now this is the first offseason that's Bronco fans, minus the Chiefs or whatever. First time in Broncos in like 9 years, the Broncos have a quarterback, they have a head coach. They got cap space this year. They can go into the offseason and build this roster around Bo Nix to compete for the playoffs and a Super Bowl next year. This offseason, like, I hate the offseason because no more football, but if there's ever a time to be excited, it's this offseason for sure. But going over that, talking about that, Muhammad, I wanted to get your take on this. We're going to go over every team, the Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, we're going to go over their pending free agents and what we think they're going to do in the offseason this year. But just with that, what do you think the AFC West standings are going to look like for 2025? Just too early reaction. What would your guess be?
Honestly, Eddie, with everything that I see now with the roster the way it is with the Broncos, I see the Chargers being number one, Broncos two, Chiefs, and then Raiders. Now, a lot of things could change because we know the Broncos are going to be going through free agency. They're going to go to the draft, and if the Broncos actually get some talent for both, I can see the Broncos being number one. But for now, I'll put the Chargers on that category.
Well, I'm right there with you, but I'm gonna flip too. I'm gonna flip the Chargers and Broncos. I'm not saying this because I'm a Broncos fan. I truly believe, in my opinion, Sean Payton's a better head coach than Jim Harbaugh. Like, I'm not sitting here saying Jim Harbaugh is a bad head coach because he's not. But whenever it comes to building a roster, I mean, they're both good at it, but I think Sean Payton's better. Like, Sean Payton's actually won a Super Bowl. He took a broken down Drew Brees that nobody wanted with a team called the Aints that literally wasn't going anywhere. Probably wasn't even going to be long for New Orleans, with the way they were going. Gets them to a Super Bowl within 4 years of being there. Jim Harbaugh, yes, I understand what he did with the 49ers, a team that's had, a past of greatness, they were still the 49ers. Even in the early 2010s, they were the 49ers. Within 4 years, he gets them to a Super Bowl, but he doesn't win it. And honestly, I think he had at least a starting caliber quarterback, whether it was Alex Smith or Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick.
He had a starting quarterback that he really didn't develop. And, I mean, you could talk about Sean Payton with Drew Brees, but Sean Payton drafted a guy that everybody said he was crazy for taking in the first round and made him into almost the offensive rookie of the year. And guess what? Bo Nix made the Pro Bowl this year. He just denied to go because I think he was hurt or something in his back from earlier in the season. He wanted to take the offseason and, make sure he's healed up for next season, which that's a leadership for me. Who gives a damn about the Pro Bowl anymore? Like, yeah, it's a great individual accolade to have. But as far as actually watching the Pro Bowl, which, by the way, is a freaking joke now, in my opinion, it's flag football.
It's like
I miss the
vacation.
Pro Bowl when they still hit each other.
Yeah. It's vacation for the players, really. That's what it is.
Yeah. So, but for Bo Nix, he made the Pro Bowl. He was second place in Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he had the most passing touchdowns than any other rookie quarterback this year. He had more than Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels. So I'm excited. Like, that part of it, Sean Payton proved he's a better head coach, in my opinion, than Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh comes to the Chargers. He already got quarterback in Justin Herbert that's been developed. And Justin Herbert, honestly, I think he's good, but I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. I really don't. He's had 2 playoff appearances and choked in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people want to say, well, Bo Nix made the playoffs this year and choked. Yeah, I'm like, no one expected the Broncos to beat the Buffalo Bills.
Nope.
Nobody did. I mean, there might be a few Bronco fans who are like, yeah, we can beat them. But come on, $85 million in dead cap, a rookie quarterback. The fact that we even made the playoffs was a great thing because we were only supposed to win 5 games this year.
Yeah, no talent, just a
And
few players. Like seriously.
yeah, and I'm not worried about the Broncos. Like I even picked the Broncos to lose against the Bills because I knew we didn't have enough talent on the roster yet to compete. I'm just happy we made the damn thing.
Yeah.
But with that said, I want to start with the Chiefs first. I want to throw this up here. Oh crap, I went to the wrong thing. These are the Chiefs pending free agents for 2025. And you guys tell me if I'm crazy because the Chiefs are going to take a major step back. And I think right now the Chiefs they have less than $1 million in cap. Now, actually, there's a few more things I want to say. The Chiefs have like less than $1 million in cap for the 2025 offseason, 2025 offseason. I think 4 or 5 of their players are taking up like the majority of the cap. Chris Jones, their center, their left tackle, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Like these guys are taking up like 160 something million or 170 something million of their cap.
Yep.
Now, if Travis Kelce retires, it saves them 14 million. And they got a lot of players to pay this offseason. And, and honestly, I think Travis Kelce might retire this year. I think he's had enough. You saw him in the Super Bowl. Honestly, the whole playoffs, like outside of that Texans game, he really did not play well. He just didn't seem like he wanted to be there anymore. But with all that said, oh crap, I keep doing the same thing. Give me a second here, Mohammed. All right, there we go. All right, let's take a look here. Share screen. Takes forever to load this thing up. All right, as you can see from here, the top pending free agent they have is DeAndre Hopkins. I think based on this, I think they have 28 players that are free agents this year. As you can see on the side, you got unrestricted free agent, you got restricted free agent. But pretty much all the unrestricted free agents, you got DeAndre Hopkins, which whatever, he's 32 years old. He'll be 33 by the time the season starts next year. He's probably gone. Then their safety, Justin Reed's gone. A defensive end they have, he's only going to be 28 by the next season starts. Charles Omanahanu, I guess. I can't really pronounce his name. Defensive end. A receiver, Brown. Carson Wentz. Uche, outside linebacker. Another DN, Wharton. DJ Humphreys, their left tackle. Give me a second here. Derek Natty, defensive tackle. Justin Watson, wide receiver. P. Ryan, running back. Nick Bolton, that's the big one to me. He's like one of their star players on their defense at the inside linebacker position. He's only going to be 25 the time the season starts. He's a free agent. Juju, Winchester, Pinal, or whatever his name is. Kareem Hunt, Nicole Hardman, this Marlin dude, Jody Forston. There's a lot of players that they're going to be losing this offseason that they have to pay. Even their punter, their kicker. So, with all that said, the Chiefs are really, really,
in trouble.
and all honesty, they're in desperate need. Hang on a second. My thing screwed up here. Uh-oh. Trying to get back to the video. Give me a second here, guys. Oh, there it is. But with all that said, like they got a lot of players that need to be signed. They only have less than $1 million. And I'm pretty sure Patrick Mahomes, he's already restructured his deal multiple times over the past couple of years. And but what's your thoughts on this, Mohammed? Like, I think they're going to take a major step back this year. They got a lot of problems this offseason. What are your thoughts?
I agree, Eddie. I agree. I was happy when when you were like going through the players, I was just laughing. Good. What are they gonna do? And that's the advantage we have. We have a rookie quarterback. We don't have to worry about that, right? But yeah, they like I said, they're not going to the Super Bowl. They're lucky if they make the playoffs. Because what are they gonna do? Even if you restructure Patrick Mahomes and go to all these other players, there's only so much you can do because the cap is limited. The cap is the cap. What are you gonna do? So they are going to take a step back for sure.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely are going to take a step back. And it's just, to me, it's freaking hilarious because of the fact that, you know, I don't know what they're going to do. Like, now they can cut a lot of these guys and save cap, and maybe they'll probably, they can cut some people. Like I said, if Travis Kelsey winds up retiring, they say 14 million. They could probably cut a couple of these other guys. But the other thing is they got to redo their offensive line. That was one of the big problems for the Chiefs
Mhm.
during this last Super Bowl is that their offensive line was terrible. They could not protect Patrick Mahomes, just like
Yep.
after the Tom Brady Super Bowl where they lost. And they did upgrade the offensive line, but it's like this year, you got a lot of players coming up. You know, Patrick Mahomes, you've been restructuring. And eventually that money's going to have to come due for Patrick Mahomes. Chris Jones, they just signed him a couple of years ago. His contract's going to probably be coming up. They're going to have to figure out what to do with him. Like I said, their left tackle, you know, uh, Rasheed Rat or not Rasheed Rat, or Xavier Worthy, like he's still got a couple of years, of course.
Hmm.
But even your guys on the back end, like Trent McDuffie, he's going to be wanting a pay raise probably next offseason. All these corners they got, like they're in big trouble, man. Like they're going to take a step back, and this year and last year, they really bubble gum the roster together. Ever since pretty much Tyreek Hill left, they've been bubble gumming this
Hmm.
roster together. And honestly, like I said, last year they shouldn't have won if it wasn't but for a bunch of controversial calls. Same with this year.
Hmm.
They just don't have the roster to compete. And Mahomes has only got 10 more years. And honestly, I think Andrew Reid's only got maybe 2 or 3 left before he retires. So I'm happy to see it. I can't wait to see their inevitable downfall. I mean, they can still draft well, but, you know, the Chiefs ain't got them. I think they got 7 picks in this draft this year, and it's not like you're going to hit on every single pick out of the draft. Like you might hit out, maybe 3 or 4 at best, but with as many holes as this team's going to have, I don't even know what to say, bro. It's going to be crazy for the Chiefs, bro. It really is. Um, but give me 1 second here. I'm going to pop up the Chargers, and the Chargers, I believe, have a lot of free agents this offseason. And they have a lot of cap space too. But they have a lot of cap space, I believe. But let me come back here. I gotta share screen. It just takes me a minute, guys. I'm sorry about this, but here we go. Oh crap, that's not the right thing. Give me a second here, guys. Let me see. Chargers. Where are they at? I gotta find them here. There they are. Based on this, they only have one guy that's an unrestricted free agent, and that is J.K.
Dobbins.
Dobbins. So, and they got a lot of cap space. Hang on, make sure this is right because I think, yeah, this ain't right.
Just change where it
Uh,
says running back to all players, I guess.
oh yeah, oops. Thank you,
That's
Mohammed.
what it is.
Okay,
No
there we
problem.
go. Now let's go to the Chargers. There we go. Crazy. So they got Khalil Mack, which I don't think that's. I mean, he's a good pass rusher, even being almost 34. He's still one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL. The backup quarterback, Morgan Fox at DN, Christian Fulton, which is one of their top corners, DJ Chark, Easton Stick, Denzel Perryman, who's a good inside linebacker for them. Their punter, a corner. I mean, you see it. Even J.K. Dobbins, their starting caliber running back there. They got a lot of free agents this year. Hayden Hurst, Sam Mustipher, which was a Bronco there for a short period.
Hmm.
Elijah Molden. Let's see. Is there any other big names on here? Nope, I don't see any more. But yeah, as you see there, guys, a lot of free agents. But the Chargers actually have cap space this year, so they might be able to deal with that a little bit. So, but what are your thoughts about this, Mohammed?
Yeah, they like Eddie. They do scare me a little bit. They're going to be for the next what 3 4 years. They're going to be our main challenge. It's always going to be us and the Chargers. The Chiefs, I don't really see them doing much. The Raiders, they still got to find a quarterback. I know we're going to be talking about that too. They're not even in the conversation, but yeah, they they have the money to go get some free agents, and then they're going to go to the draft. So yeah, but honestly, with the way the Broncos played, Eddie, without all the talent that we could actually get, just imagine where we're going to be with talent. So I wouldn't be worried about it too much.
Yeah, like I agree. I think the Chargers are going to be our biggest, competitor the next couple of years. While the Chiefs, like they're going to. I mean, you got to realize too, there was like 10 years there where Tom Brady and the Patriots had to take a step back and put pieces back on the roster. They didn't win a championship for 10 years because they had to step back and I don't think it's going to take the Chiefs that long because they really can't afford it. Like I said, I think Andy Reid at best, maybe at the max, 5 years left of coaching before he retires. Patrick Mahomes has only got 10 years left because I don't see Patrick Mahomes playing until his like mid 40s, like Tom Brady was. So like it's going to take him a few years to probably retool and revamp this roster, especially that offensive line, because you know finding good offensive linemen in the draft is not easy. Like you gotta draft,
Mm.
you gotta find the right guy, draft them, then take maybe a year or so to develop them. And like honestly, outside of the center, I mean they got Joe Thuney, which is good, but he's older. I don't know how much longer he's gonna play. Like Creed Humphrey, their center, he's like the youngest guy on that offensive line. He's like 26.
Wow.
So they got to find more receivers. Like they can't just bubble gum and patch the receiver group together again. Isaac Pacheco, ever since his injury, he hasn't really looked like the same running back he was before. Travis Kelsey retires. You got to revamp your inside linebacker if Nick Bolton walks. I mean, I think that's the one player they might restructure some contracts, let people go, and re-sign Nick Bolton because he's a good inside linebacker. But even your secondary, you might have to revamp. You know,
Yeah.
so it's a lot, man. But the Chargers too, it's like they got the money though. They can go into free agency, and people are going to want to come to play for the Chargers. People are going to want to come to play for the Broncos. Um, and the Broncos, I think, have 53 million in cap this year. The Chargers, I think, have like 60 something million in cap.
Just
So they're those two teams are going to be able to bring people in. The Chiefs, they ain't really going to be able to make a whole lot of you know additions through free agency. They're going to have to sign the guys they want to keep and then probably get rid of some guys they need, and they're gonna have to draft and bring in some guys that are like second or third stringers to fill starting roles until they can get their cap back again. Because they're paying, I think Patrick Mahomes this year, I think they're paying them $66 million based on what I've seen because they've restructured his contract so many times, pushed that money down the road that now they have to pay him. So, but Michael jumps in here real quick. I want to get this chat. He's like, "Hi Ed, Muhammad, go Broncos." What's up, man? Thanks for
hey,
joining us
Michael.
tonight.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions or comments, please get them in tonight. Also, like, comment, subscribe on this video, and hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. Um, but next, I'm gonna get this up here. There we go. Next, I'm gonna get this up here, and I'm going to bring up the Raiders. I'm gonna do the Broncos last, guys. Um, just so me and Muhammad can go over this and talk about it. Let's see. Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. Now the Raiders, they have I think over 100 million in cap space, honestly, because they literally have nobody on the roster worth a damn. They don't even have a quarterback, and honestly, I don't see uh, Pete Carroll being that guy. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be there for the next 3 years. He might change the culture, but I don't see him getting a quarterback to develop. He's 74. By the time his contract ends, he's going to be 77. There's no way he's going to he's not going to be able to get a quarterback this year unless they trade up, which I doubt is going to happen. And, he's not
I
going to
have a
rebuild and try to, you know, uh, he's not going to try to, develop a rookie quarterback. But with that said,
I have
right
a
here,
theory
you
though,
got
Eddie.
what's up?
I think they might sign Aaron Rodgers. I was
They
just
could
thinking
sign
about it
Aaron
the other
Rodgers.
day.
I've heard them talk about signing Russell Wilson too. I don't think Pete Carroll's going to want to bring himself back to that. Like,
No,
it'd be
but Aaron
different.
Rodgers.
Well, it'd be different to sign like an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson if this
Mm-hmm.
team had enough pieces, and if they had the pieces to compete and they were literally just missing the quarterback. I can maybe understand Pete Carroll doing it then.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that this team has so many holes, talking about the Raiders, has so many holes on it, doesn't have a quarterback. Like, I mean, yeah, you bring Russ and Aaron Rodgers in, but you ain't going to win nothing, even with those guys. They're both washed, in my opinion. There's a reason why the Steelers are moving on from Russell Wilson. Like, if he was that steady of a hand, with that defense they have in Pittsburgh, they would keep Russ. But instead,
Me
they're going to
too.
go with Justin Fields most likely. The Jets, I'm sure you saw it the other day, Mohammed. They already pretty much said, Aaron Rodgers, we're done with you. They told him to leave,
I was
basically.
surprised, honestly, Eddie. I was so surprised because I know their owner just really loved him some Aaron Rodgers for some reason.
Well, that should be enough to prove to you that the Packers didn't want Rodgers. The Jets, who's a really dysfunctional organization, doesn't want Aaron Rodgers. And then Russell Wilson's the same thing. Like, Pete Carroll got rid of him in Seattle for a reason. Then he comes to Denver. The Denver Broncos pay him this massive contract, kick his ass to the curb before that contract even starts, and takes the largest dead cap hit in NFL history because Russell Wilson's that bad. He's that washed that the Broncos don't even want him. Then he goes to the Steelers, signs a $1 million deal. They'd rather have Justin Fields over Russell Wilson at this point. I don't see Pete Carroll bringing either one of those guys in, honestly.
I
But
mean, I'll be surprised if you bring Russell Wilson, Eddie, because of the issue they had when they were, Seattle. But Aaron Rodgers may be a 1 year deal until they wake next year. Maybe they get a quarterback. I don't know. Just a thought.
I do have another quarterback in mind, and that's if he doesn't sign with his current team, and that's Sam Darnold.
I
If
thought you
the
were gonna say
Vikings
that.
are done
Okay.
with Sam Darnold, if the Vikings are done with Sam Darnold, and they want to go into 2025 with JJ McCarthy, they can very easily let Sam Darnold walk. Maybe you can sign Sam Darnold for like a 3-year deal. To where maybe, Pete Carroll can find the right offensive coordinator for Sam Darnold. He comes in, Pete Carroll builds this defense and gets a solid run game. And then, you know, maybe they could, by year 2, year 3, Pete Carroll's last year, maybe they can win some games. You know what I mean? But that'd be my opinion. Like, if I was the Raiders, I would go after Sam Darnold. That way, sign him to
That
like a
would actually
3-year
make more
deal.
sense.
Yeah, sign him to like a 3-year deal,
Mhm.
and then let Pete Carroll fill out this roster. And then by the time Pete Carroll and Sam Darnold Sam Darnold goes back into free agency, Pete Carroll retires, you got the foundation of your roster intact, and all you got to do is, if the new coach comes in, just get a quarterback. That's what I would do if I was the Raiders. But I hope they don't do that because that'd be the best thing for them to do, in my opinion. But
Exactly. That's why I'm saying Aaron Rodgers. Let him go there and start some issues.
yeah, no joke, man. But let's go through here real quick. The Raiders free agents. They got, I think, 27 players right here. Marcus Epps, he's a free agent. Robert Spillane, linebacker, who's actually one of their most solid linebackers this year. Same with Marcus Epps. He was a good safety. Um, Kelvin Colson, Harrison Bryant, John Jenkins. I mean, Alexander Madison, the running back, Amir Hadul. He was pretty good this year for the Raiders. Let's see. Um, I mean, there's not Desmond Ritter. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of great names on this list. I mean, the Raiders ain't really losing nothing, if you ask my opinion. Um, and like I said, they got plenty of cap space. They can go into free agency. But the problem with that is no one's going to want to sign with the Raiders. Who's
Nope.
going to want? What good player is going to want to sign with the Raiders? Like, seriously, no quarterback, a head coach that's old that's going to retire in 3 years. I mean, if there's a player that's like 25-30, and they're looking to win, why the hell would you be going to the Broncos, the Chargers, and hell, even the Chiefs? You have a better chance of winning with those three teams than you would with the Raiders. Why the hell would you want to go to the Raiders in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert with those rosters intact and getting better? Why the hell would you want to go to the Raiders? Like, so they're not going to be able to really sign any big key free agents. What are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Yeah, I agree with you. And since they don't have a quarterback, they don't have that question answered. If I was the Raiders, I'd probably just go to the draft and get some young players and start building from the draft. I don't know what they would do with the money. Maybe save it for down the line once they find their quarterback. Then you can surround your quarterback with some talent. But this Sam Darnold thing is scaring me, Eddie, because if they bring him in, then people might want to sign with the Raiders.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. They
I
got that tight end
think,
too, Brock Powers.
I think, well, yeah, they got Brock Bowers, but that's
Mhm.
it. I mean, I even saw reports, a couple of weeks ago that Max Crosby doesn't even want to be there anymore. If Max
I hope.
Crosby leaves, that team's done. Like, it's officially 100% done. They just need to go on full rebuild. But
Mhm.
even if Crosby stays there, like Crosby, they bring in Sam Darnold, Crosby, Sam Darnold, and Brock Bowers. I still don't think that's going to be a team people want to go to.
Maybe they can
Like,
sign like T. Higgins or somebody like that.
no, I would think that. I think they would probably most likely sign maybe like a freaking, I don't even know, man. Like, just a not a bad wide receiver, but they would sign like an old washed up receiver thinking it would be good for him, like another Devontae Adams or something. But it's like, even if Sam Darnold goes there, players are going to look at it and be like, they don't really have a long term viability option at quarterback. They don't have a long term solution and plan for the future. Like I said, Pete Carroll's only going to be there for 3 years. And I said 3 years they can sign Sam Darnold for, to match as long as Pete Carroll's there. But Pete Carroll's got to nail the OC hire 100%. He's going to have to nail that with Sam Darnold. Because if you hire a crappy OC, Sam Darnold is not going to go back to what he looked like last year in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. He's probably going
Mhm.
to look like, Jet Sam Darnold. So, but with that said, um, even if they bring Sam Darnold later, it's not even guaranteed they sign him 3 years. Maybe they sign him for a year just to kind of even the ship, because we're talking about, they're bringing Pete Carroll in to change the culture. That doesn't mean nothing. Yeah, changing the culture makes it better, makes, players want to play a little bit harder. Maybe some players will want to go there.
Gotta
But
have the
it's like
talent
you're
though.
going to retire in 3 years and you're going to bring
Yeah.
in another coach and he's going to change the culture again.
Yeah.
So I think, like, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders go into 2025 season with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as their quarterbacks again.
I would not complain about that.
Like,
You know.
the other best case scenario for the Raiders, like I said, they got over 100 million cap. They could go out and sign Sam Darnold to like a 3-year deal, 2-year deal, a 2-year deal worth like $60 million. Sam Darnold gets paid 30 million a year.
Is
Okay,
he a free agent, Eddie, or is he?
yeah, he
Oh, he
is.
is. Okay.
He only signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Vikings. Like, now they could re-sign him. I don't think they will. I think they're going to want to move forward with JJ McCarthy. But with that said, the Raiders could easily sign Sam Darnold, like I said, 2 year, $60 million a year, $30 million a year, maybe like 45 million guaranteed or something like that. And they could steady the ship with him, fix the culture. They have a quarterback that could be somewhat competitive with the right OC if they hire the right guy. And then Pete Carroll the next 3 years. I don't think it's about changing the culture. I think they brought Pete Carroll in just to assess the talent on the roster and draft the right talent to make this, to give this team like at least, the studs of a good foundation. You know what I mean? Like right
Mhm.
now, they have nothing. They have Max Crosby and Brock Bowers. Like Brock Bowers, you can't just, this is our foundational, this is our foundation right here, Brock Bowers. Max Crosby, I think, is 29. He's going to hit 30 next year, and he's going to start, declining.
I hope they
They're
trade him, Eddie.
going to build around for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, I hope they trade
Brock
him because
Bowers is,
yeah.
but it's like, they're gonna have to bring in more foundational pieces. to where Pete Carroll can make the foundation for the Raiders. The next coach comes in, he can build on that, get his quarterback, and build on the foundational pieces that Pete Carroll brought in. That would be the Raiders' best bet. I mean, I hope they fail at it, of course, but that'd be what they
I
need to do.
feel like we're kind of helping the Raiders, Eddie. All these ideas that we keep coming up with, right?
Oh, I'm sure that's Pete Carroll's not stupid. I like Pete Carroll as a coach. I'm sure
Mhm.
that's what his vision was for this team when they hired him.
Yeah,
Like,
but
they're not just going to hire Pete Carroll just to hire him. They
mm,
got something's got to change over these next 3 years with him as head coach. Whether it's him getting the foundational pieces in place to build the foundation up, or even if it's the culture changer, it's got to be one of those two things. They weren't going to just hire Pete Carroll, a 74-year-old head coach, just to hire him. They had to have some kind of a plan. I mean,
mm,
I hate the Raiders, I hate the Chiefs, but these are still billionaires that have ideas of what they want to do moving forward. Um, but with that said, I got a couple of comments here. We'll get to these, and then we'll get to the Broncos free agents and a couple other topics we got to get to. Um, Biggie Bronco, how's everybody doing tonight? We're doing good, man. How are
what's up,
you?
Biggie?
Appreciate the comment. Uh, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Everybody, get your comments in if you want us to throw them up here, and also hit that bell notification so you know when we go live, guys. Biggie Bronco on here again. Sam Darnold going to have to go to Mike Shanahan's system. If he ain't in Mike Shanahan's system, then he's going to be a bust. That's what I'm saying. But Pete Carroll could hire a good offensive coordinator that can maybe really work well together with Sam Darnold. But once again, it's not like it's going to be a building piece. It's not a foundational piece. It's mostly just a bring Sam Darnold in and hope he can keep you guys afloat for a couple of years while Pete Carroll builds his foundation until they get their new head coach. That's what I was saying.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, you bring Sam Darnold in, the Raiders are going to compete for a Super Bowl or for the play. No, no. They're still going to be the worst team in the AFC West for the next 3 years. I strongly believe that. But I feel like if they bring Sam Darnold in, they'll at least stabilize the QB position for them for the next couple of years to where, like I said, Pete Carroll can put the foundational pieces on this team, have Sam Darnold maybe be a little competitive, but still be bad at the same time. I know it's kind of a, hyper, that's not really going anywhere, but still, the Raiders got to do something. They can't just keep going down the same route they're going. I'm sure, pretty sure Mark Davis, he knows that. I mean, I want them to stay a dumpster fire. Like, easy wins for the Broncos every year. The Raiders stay a dumpster fire, but they're still a team. He's still an owner. And just like the Broncos were, as bad as they were, we needed a structure in this team. We needed owners. We needed a coach. We needed a quarterback. Eventually, the Raiders are going to get that. And then one of the teams in the AFC West, whether if it's the Chargers or Chiefs, most probably the Chiefs, are going to falter and go back down to earth and probably be the bad team. Every like 10 to 15 years, that's going to happen with, us, the Chargers, the Chiefs, or the Raiders. So, but they also have to nail the head coaching hire and the quarterback, which ain't easy. I mean, the head coach is easier, but it's still no easy task. So that's just my opinion on that. But let's go over. Let me get here real quick. God damn it. Let me get here real quick and get the Broncos free agents up, which I know some of the free agents the Broncos have this offseason. And there's going to be a lot of guys I know they're not going to be bringing back this year. So now let's see. Broncos. There we are. All right. Here we go. The first one up there, which I don't see coming back. I think they fixed this position in free agency or in the draft. Is DJ Jones D tackle? Zach Wilson, Jared Stidham. I think one of those guys comes back. Trayvon Smith, Cody Barton, with Alex Singleton coming back. There's been a lot of talk about the Broncos getting Braun, the inside linebacker from the Eagles that just won the Super Bowl because Sean Payton drafted him. They got to get a running back, of course. So the big key players on this team that the Broncos need is safety, inside linebacker, defensive line
Mhm.
help, tight end, wide receiver, running back. Not exactly in that order, but that's the
Yeah.
stuff they need to look at. Of course, Cody Barton, Javante, we all know is gone. Riley Dixon, they might bring him back. I'm not sure. Stranad, another inside linebacker. Our backup tackle, Petrie. Fullback, Michael Burton, which I think they might bring him back. if he doesn't want to retire. I'm pretty sure they probably re-sign Michael Burton to like a 1 year deal. Zach Cunningham, Bailey, uh, our long snapper here, Lucas Kroll, Jaquan McMillan, which I think they are going to bring him back for sure. Out of all these, we'll talk about it here in a minute. DeAndre Tillman, I think they bring back as well. So, like, I think they bring back Zach Wilson. I think they bring back Riley Dixon so far, Jaquan McMillan, DeAndre Tillman. Jordan Jackson's gone, little Jordan Humphrey. But yeah, that's pretty much all the free agents that the Broncos have. Um, but your thoughts, Muhammad? Who do you think they bring back out of that crop?
Well, we know Javante is probably gone. Um, I sort of agree with you, Eddie. Little Jordan Humphrey is probably going to come back because we know who really loves him, right? Dixon, yes.
Uh,
Um, man, if we can get if
Here
we
you
can get
go.
Bronson,
Michael made a good point. He was like tight end, fullback, Nate Atkins. Yeah, if they
yeah.
convert Nate Atkins to fullback, they could get rid of Michael Burton. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, they played Nate Atkins a little bit at fullback during the preseason this year. He did relatively well, so maybe that is something that they're looking at because he's young and he's cheap.
Hmm.
So thanks, Michael, for your
That's
comment.
yeah, that's something that Sean actually looks for a fullback. That's something that he kind of like on his offensive scheme. Um, But if we can get that inside linebacker from the Eagles, Eddie Bond is it's going to be incredible. I think with him with Singleton would be tight. Get some help with the D tackle, hopefully on the draft or free agency.
Yeah, they need to get like I think John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen, of course, are going to be your starting defensive ends. They're good. You really need to go out and you need to find a superstar D tackle. You need to find the guy that can crowd them, kind of like a Chris Jones. I'm not saying you're gonna get a Chris Jones because that's very hard to do, but a player like that maybe you could draft one to where he could develop into that superstar where he can clog the middle. He's going to take up two offensive linemen every single time he's on the field to where it can make like Benito and Cooper and maybe Allen or Franklin Myers have one-on-ones more often to where they can get in and get the sack. You know, you really don't have to rebuild the offensive line. You just got to get that one game. You get that one game record that literally teams are going to have to game plan for to have to be like, we have to double team this guy every play or he's going to kill us.
I
If
know
you can find
someone,
that,
Eddie.
huh?
I know someone that can help us if he comes
Who?
out of retirement. Aaron Donald. Oh my God, I love that player.
I think the Rams still have his rights though. We'd have to trade for him.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you gotta get that. Like, it doesn't have to be a D tackle. It could be a defensive end. It could be an outside backer, or a D tackle. Like one
Hmm.
of those guys, if they're a game changer, like I said, like a guy that the other team has to plan for, it has to double team the majority of the time, or chip and block. Then your other guys can eat because they're going to get
Yeah,
single
yeah.
covered, but this guy's taking all the attention away.
Hmm.
So if you get that person on this defensive line is going to be deadly. They ain't going to have to blitz as much. And I agree, Muhammad. Inside backer, they got to get someone to cover them, cover tight ends over the middle. They got to get another safety because PJ Locke's not it,
Hmm.
you know. And on offense, it's all about running back. Running back is a main priority on offense. Honestly, it's a main priority this offseason to get a damn run game. Help Bo Nix out because even Patrick Mahomes, even the greats, Tom Brady, you know, if they have a good run game, like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and Peyton Manning, they can make receivers great. They can take an average receiver and make him look like a superstar or turn him into a superstar. But if you have an elite run game, like this is why I don't think like I would still like to bring another a number one receiver in to help Bo Nix, of course, but get him a run game. Get a run game to where just like on the defense, teams have to game plan for that running back because he like a Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry or hell even a Christian McCaffrey, something like that. Just a running back. They're going to be like, hey, we have to at least game plan for this guy because if we don't, he's going to torch us. And then it scares the defense. They have to bring up extra safeties, and boom, you can hit the receivers over the top. So, and tight end. Get Bo Nix a freaking tight end, man. Like we know Sean Payton loves his tight ends. We know he does. You know, I mean, there's a reason why Travis Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes had that you know connection together because tight ends like it's hard for a safety to cover them because tight ends are so big,
So big.
but
Yeah.
it's also hard for a linebacker to cover them because they're so fast sometimes. And if you get that perfect match, get that mismatch over the middle, and we know how Sean Payton loves throwing passes over the middle. He loves designing plays over the middle. You get that big tight end that can, box people out. He can, outrun linebackers. Bo Nix is going to thrive. Run game, tight end. That's what makes receiver a little bit more expendable. You get that tight end that can, just demolish teams over the middle and a run game that's a threat. You don't really have to get like a superstar, like a superstar, receiver. Just get like a solid number one, a baseline number one, like a T. Higgins or a Chris Godwin that's 28, and you get that young tight end that can box people out in that run game that can freaking torch a defense. There you go. You're good. So, but I'm excited to see what the Broncos do this offseason, honestly. Um, we do have a few more topics. So I wanted to go over what we think each team's going to do in the offseason. And the last topic I want to go over is, are the Chiefs fraudulent? We'll go over that last. Um, Honestly, we just went. I mean, what are your thoughts about the Broncos, Mohammed? Like we kind of just touched on, what do each team needs to do in the offseason. I just described what they should do, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely the same things, Eddie. I mean, as far as offense, running back is running back, running back. I'll say three times. Tight end. Um, for as far as the defense, we already talked about the D line, because that really showed when we played the Bills. We were just manhandled in the middle, like just kept turning the ball on us. We need to do something. We need to get beefy. We need to get big on that line, inside linebacker and safety. If we can get this, and I think between free agency, Eddie, and the draft, we'll be able to get that right. Um, I have an issue with all these theories about us trading for Debo Samuel or um, trading for that wide receiver Garrett Wilson from the Jets. I don't want us to give up any picks. If we're gonna sign a wide receiver, we should just sign a free agent, you know. But all this thing, trade for this, trade for that, no, please no. You're gonna give up a first round pick probably, and you have to pay them. I don't like that idea, Eddie, for me.
The only receiver I would be comfortable trading for, it wouldn't be Debo Samuel because he's almost 30. Like if you're gonna, like you said it yourself, like if you're gonna go after a wide receiver, go after either T Higgins or Chris Godwin in freaking free
Oh
agency.
God, yes,
And that way, all
perfect.
you gotta do is just pay them money. You ain't gonna have to
Yeah,
worry about getting draft picks. But if I was to trade for
exactly.
one wide receiver, it would probably be Garrett Wilson because he's still young. I think he's like 25, 26. He's
Hmm.
still got like at least 4 to 5 years left of his prime. I would be willing to give up a first round pick for Garrett Wilson. Just my thing is this draft is deep for tight ends and deep for running backs. So if you could trade a first round pick, your first round pick, and get Garrett Wilson, do it. And then just draft your tight end and running back in the second and third round. You know, um, but anyway, uh, but with that said, I agree with you on that. Uh, but yeah, the Broncos don't trade for Debo Samuel. Please, for the love of God, just don't do that. Just don't. But moving on to the Chargers. The Chargers to me, like they're I think they still need their Jim Harbaugh is going to continue to build that offensive line. He's probably going to get his running back of the future in the draft. Probably add like another receiver or two, or the free agency or draft. And then they're going to have to figure out what to do because Joey Bosa is getting older. Like he's at over 30, and Khalil Mack's over 30, and he's a free agent. So they're gonna have to, figure that out somehow. Get another pass rusher. I mean, they got a lot of holes to fill on their side. Like I think inside linebacker, pass rusher, defensive line, receiver, running back, offensive line. What are your thoughts about the Chargers, Mohammed?
Yeah, it just sounds like it there's a lot of similarities on the pieces that they need for the team as well, Eddie. They have a little bit more money as far as the cap is concerned, and I guess it's gonna be we might be competing for the same type of players on free agency and on the draft, Eddie. So and I think they draft before us, right? So
No, the Chargers draft after us. They
did
had a
they?
better record. They were 11-6 this year. We were 10-7.
Oh, okay.
Like
All
if we
right.
would have
Good.
went deeper into the playoffs and them, like if we would have won our game against Buffalo and they lost, then they would have had a better draft pick
Yeah,
than
yeah, you're
us.
right. You're right. Yeah, they did have a
So,
better record.
but now moving on to the next team, we kind of talked about them a little bit. The Raiders. We kind of talked about it at nauseum a little bit, in my opinion. Uh, they got to figure out what they're going to do in a quarter. Like, I mean, they got so many holes on that roster. It's not like even if they fill some of those holes this year, they're not going to be very competitive this offseason because the biggest question for them is quarterback. And we've already talked about it. There's only two quarterbacks in this draft that are labeled first round talents.
Mhm.
And I think the Raiders are picking at 6. You got the Titans picking at 1, who's going to take a quarterback. You got the Browns are at 2. And yeah, they have Deshaun. They can't really get rid of him, but they could take a quarterback because they really need one for the future. And then you got the Giants at number 3, who definitely need a quarterback. Like, and even if the Raiders wanted to trade up, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but they would literally have to give up probably like 3 or 4 first round picks
Mhm.
to move up because all those other teams desperately need quarterbacks. And I don't see them moving unless they get an offer they literally cannot refuse. But they're going to have to be like, okay, well, we're going to take this offer, but we're still not going to have a quarterback of the future for the next, like, probably at least for this year.
Mhm.
So, excuse me. But yeah, I don't see the Raiders getting their quarterback this year. That's the biggest question. And we talked about it again. Who's going to want to sign with the Raiders? Even with Pete Carroll there, they have no answer quarterback. They have so many holes on the roster.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they have a bunch of cap space. Like, in order for them to bring in any type of good player, like an elite player, they're going to have to drastically overpay. What are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, there's only two quarterbacks, and then there's this big drop as far as the talent. So, unless they do something crazy, which I actually heard, Eddie, I don't know if you, I saw this article. They're talking about the Saints might be trying to trade, you know, with the Titans for that first overall pick. I don't know how much they're gonna have to give up, but it's like you said, three or four first round picks. They might say, okay, we'll do it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if
But
someone calls and says, "Hey, well," like, because even with that, Shador and Cam Ward, which are the two quarterbacks that are, the two quarterbacks in this draft that have first round talent, it's no guarantee those guys are going to be good in the NFL. Like, if you literally trade for one of those guys and you trade 3 or 4 first round picks, you're literally mortgaging the next 3 to 4 years of your draft. Like, say by year 2, you're like, oh shit, Cam Ward's not the guy or Shador is not the guy. Then you don't have any first round picks for at least another year or two, if not longer, maybe. If you find out in like year 1, like, oh crap, Shador's really not like if you can find out in year 1, Shador's not the guy, Cam Ward's not the guy, then you don't have picks for the next 3 years. Then you're like, what do we do? That's the kind of move that gets a GM fired.
yep.
So I can't see it. Like, I don't think anybody's going to trade up. Like, you're literally going to have to give up everything and your right arm in order to move up to one of those top 2 picks. I mean, maybe,
They give up
I
Brock
could be
Bowers.
wrong. The only team I could possibly see trading out of their pick in those top 3 would be maybe the Cleveland Browns because they're in the position where they need a quarterback, but they're still stuck with Deshaun Watson until I think like 2027. For at least another 3 years, they're stuck with him. I
Yeah.
mean, you're literally going to be paying a rookie quarterback, which is nothing. You're going to be paying him nothing, but you're still going to have this Deshaun Watson contract you're going to be paying an arm and a leg for. and he's gonna
It's
be
fully
sitting on the bench.
guaranteed.
He's the most expensive backup in the NFL.
Yeah, his contract is fully guaranteed too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're stuck with him. Like they literally like they said the Broncos could move on from Russell Wilson, but only like I think it was like 245 million, but only 160 million was guaranteed. Like $80 million of that wasn't guaranteed of his contract. The whole $230 million they gave Deshaun was fully guaranteed. They literally cannot move. They will cripple their franchise. They will not signing guys. They will be going up to guys on the streets in Cleveland like, hey, you want to play football? That's the kind of shit they would have to do if they cut Deshaun Watson right now. And that's the only thing I can see, the Browns. That's the only team I can see trading out of their pick is the Browns. Because they're like, well, shit, we're stuck with Deshaun no matter what. If we're going to pay him all this money, why as well play him?
Yeah, that might be the smartest thing to do for the Browns, Eddie. It's just to trade back.
And then they could trade, they could trade back, stockpile capital
Yeah,
to build the roster more. And just like,
exactly.
we're stuck with Deshaun anyway, so just trade back and get more picks. But again, the Browns are probably going to ask for an arm and a leg. They're probably going to ask for the farm to trade up to that number 2 spot. They're going to take advantage of a team. Whether it's the Raiders, the Jets, whoever it is, whoever is that desperate for a quarterback. Because, once again, the Giants are right behind there at 3. You know what I mean? Hell, they could get into a bidding war. Like if the Raiders like, hey, we want to move up to 2 to get one of these quarterbacks, and the Giants are like, oh, well, we want to move up because we need a quarterback.
That'd be a
They
lot
get
of fun.
bidding war.
Yeah.
And one of those teams, like I said, and whoever they trade up for, whether it's whoever the Titans don't take, whether it's Shador or Cam Ward, whoever trades up to that number 2 spot, if that happens, they better pray that quarterback is the future because they're going to be giving up everything in their mother to move up to that spot. And you know what? I'm excited to watch it because at least it's not our fun. We have our quarterback. I'm excited. So, with that said, moving on to the last team, and we've already kind of talked about, or we didn't really talk about these guys yet, but the Kansas City Chiefs. We did kind of touch on it, but dude, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna need so much debt. Like they're gonna have to restructure Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes again. Their tackle. All these players that they're paying all these big contracts to. They're gonna have to restructure to make some cap room in order to either sign guys or keep guys. And they're gonna need linebackers. They're gonna need defensive line. They're going to need offensive line. They're going to need wide receivers. They're probably going to need a tight end if Travis Kelce retires. They need a running back. Like the Chiefs, this is why I say they're going to take a step back this year because they got so many holes on that team going into next season, and they don't have very much of cap. They're going to have to cut guys and restructure a lot in order to get these guys signed. What are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what they're going to do, Eddie. Seriously. And Kelce, I honestly don't see him coming back, Eddie. I think he's going to retire. I mean, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame anyway. I mean, what do you need another Super Bowl for? Just walk away. If he does, that might help them a little bit with their cap situation, but still, only so much they can do. Even if they start restructuring everybody, you're still going to be in a bind. You really can't do as much as we do. And then at the same time, they're watching the Broncos and they're watching the Chargers just getting better. They got the quarterback, they're building that. They got the coach, they got the ownership, so, hey, they're taking a step back. That dynasty is taking a fall.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of teams have to do that. Like, whenever you have the quarterback, if you want to stay in that Super Bowl window, a lot of teams do that. They restructure their, superstars. Like, they pay them big. And they're like, hey, man, we're going to convert this to a signing bonus, or hey, we're going to push this money back to the last couple of years of your contract, so we can bring the talent in now, so we can win now, so we can win a Super Bowl. The Chiefs have been doing that. Like they paid Patrick Mahomes after that 2019 season. Like he got drafted in what was it? Didn't he get drafted in 2018 or was it 2017? Patrick Mahomes got drafted.
17, I think. Was it 17? Yeah.
So they were able to give him, after Patrick Mahomes won that Super Bowl in the 2019 season, they paid him. And instantly, before the season even started, they already were like, hey, Patrick, we need you to restructure. So
It's
that way
crazy.
they could, bring more talent into the roster so that way they can compete for a Super Bowl. There's a reason why the Chiefs made it in 2019, 2020, 2021, or not 2021. They missed it that year. They got beat by the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. But there's a reason why they've been to what? 2019, 2020, 2, 3, and now 4. For the out of the last 6 years, they've been to the Super Bowl 5 times. They've lost 2. But the reason for that is because their big superstars they paid, they restructured, mostly Patrick Mahomes. Like he signed a 10-year contract back in 2019. So yeah, I think 19, 21, 2, 3, 4. You're going into year 7 with Patrick Mahomes under that contract. And you know, that money's starting to come due. You can't really restructure him anymore. You have to pay him. So now they're going to have to cut a Chris Jones or cut a Travis Kelce, or cut, their tackle or, maybe restructure those guys. I mean, I think they restructured Chris Jones one time too, if I'm not mistaken, but they're going to have to do it in order to even just have not even really talent, just to have enough people to put on the roster.
Yeah, breathing room.
That's what happened. That's why I'm saying the Super Bowl window for the Chiefs, I think it's closed right now. Maybe in a couple of years it opens back up whenever Patrick Mahomes' current contract ends and they sign him to maybe another, 2-3 year contract and it's not as much, and they sign him to it. And then, it's not as much at that point and they can, bring in more talent. But I think for the next 3 years, the Chiefs Super Bowl window is closed because they got 3 more years, if not 4, honestly, to pay Patrick Mahomes the money they pushed back for all these years. A $500 million contract. They got to pay him, and they're not going to be able to bring these superstars in. They're going to have to draft really well, and that's it. They're going to have to bubble gum the roster together with free agency people and draft really well. Now that Patrick Mahomes' money is starting to come due. They've had their Super Bowl window for the past, what was it? Like I said, 5-6 years. Now it's closed. They got to restructure their team. And as they do that, you said it yourself, the Chargers and Broncos, they both got their
Yeah.
quarterbacks. They both got their head coaches. They're able to build their teams, and now they're starting to go up. The Chiefs are going to take a step back. The Chargers and Broncos are going to go up. And by the time the Chiefs, get to that point again to where they're able to maybe start opening the Super Bowl window, the Broncos and Chargers, they're going to be in, their prime with their quarterbacks in their Super Bowl window. And then the Raiders might be creeping into that window too at that point.
Yeah.
So it's big, man. But we got a few comments here, and then we'll get to our last subject because we're already over an hour, Mohammed. Big E Bronco here is like, if you were going to trade for a wide receiver like Garrett Wilson, draft the kid from Texas or the kid from Ohio State, either one. I haven't really looked at too much from the college kids yet, Big E Bronco. So if you got their names, let us know. But I'm not saying I want to trade for Garrett Wilson. I would be happy with signing Chris Godwin. He's
That's who I want.
28. He's 28. He's still got a good couple of years left. You can sign like a 2-3 year deal, and you ain't gonna give up draft capital for him. I'd rather not give up draft capital. I'm just saying if that's the way the Broncos want to go, if they want to trade for a wide receiver, the only one I would want to trade for is Garrett Wilson. What are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, Cross Godwin would be the best thing because then we're not giving up any capital, Eddie. He's gonna fit like a glove. And then if we're gonna trade for Garrett Wilson, what does that mean for Cortland Sutton? Is he gone? I don't know, Eddie. I want Cortland to stay. And I think if you bring somebody like a Chris Godwin, you can keep both.
I wouldn't say Cortland Sutton's gone. I would say because I mean you still got Marvin Mims. Like Troy Franklin's probably gonna maybe this year he has his breakout year if he gets some playing time, but you still got Marvin Mims, who we heard Sean Payton talk about. He wants to, what do you call it? A joker. That's pretty much Marvin Mims. You ain't got to worry about going out and getting a joker. We've seen Sean Payton use him like a joker this season, using him as in the backfield as a running back and run out of the backfield. So, and then you got Cortland Sutton. You got Vele, who's going to be 27 by the start of next year. He was a rookie this year. I don't think, Vele could be a good, he's a Tim Patrick type guy. He's not really a guy you're going to look forward to the future. He's just a guy to have there, a good set of hands that can actually catch the ball. So, whenever his rookie contract's up, Vele, I doubt they re-sign him. Unless he freaking has, a Randy Moss type, couple of years. He turns into like Randy Moss. Like that's the only way I can see the Broncos paying him. But yeah, they're I'd be like Cortland Sutton, even if they bring in Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, or because I've said this before and I'll say it again. Cortland Sutton to me is not a number one. He's a solid number two, but he's not a number one. There was games this year, you watch him, he dropped passes in key crucial moments.
True.
And he's only what, 29? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins dropped that big pass in the Super Bowl, but whenever he was younger in his prime, he wasn't dropping passes. He would catch anything that came into his freaking catch radius. DeAndre Hopkins, boom, caught it. But now he's past the hill. He's dropping those passes. Cortland Sutton's been in this prime for the past like 4 or 5 years, and he's had some crucial drops. That's what makes me say he's not number one. You need that number one, which is a Chris Godwin or something. So I don't think that would happen personally, but I could be wrong. Maybe if they bring in one of those, receivers, maybe they do get rid of Cortland Sutton. I don't know. I don't think they do, but I could be wrong. Got another one here, another super chat from Vito. He's like, oh, we got a Lions fan here. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining the channel and watching us, man. We really appreciate it. Please like, comment, subscribe on that down there, and also hit the bell notification. He's like, Lions fan here, first discovering the channel. Can you guys give me your unbiased opinion on how the Lions will look next year after losing both coordinators, assuming roster is pretty similar? We kind of saw this with the Eagles a few years ago. They made the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Of course, they lost. And they lost most of their coordinators. I think Gannon went to the Cardinals. Shane Steichen went to the Colts.
Yeah.
And they basically had the same roster outside maybe 1 or 2 key additions, mostly in the draft. And, I mean, the Saquon Barkley thing, I mean, they signed him this past offseason. But they lost both of their coordinators, and I think they made the playoffs last year in 2023, Mohammed. They just didn't make the Super Bowl. So, with that said, I think the Lions probably will take a step back this year. I still think they're going to win their division, honestly. Like, the Packers, Jordan Love, he really didn't impress me too much this year. The Vikings are going to be starting basically a rookie at quarterback because JJ didn't play this year. And then Chicago, I mean, they took your guys' offensive coordinator with Caleb Williams, and he played this whole season, but it's probably going to take them a while, those two, Johnson and Williams, to get going together. I think you guys will still win your division, but you're probably going to take a step back. How many games did the Lions win this year, Mohammed? Do you know? Was it 14 or 15?
Somewhere up there.
I think they probably won about 13 this year, and that's probably going to be good enough to win your division. But I don't think you guys will be the number 1 seed next year. I think, the favorites are going to be the Eagles, of course. But I think you guys will probably be about the 2 or 3rd seed, in my opinion. I think the 49ers have a bounce back year next year, depending if they pay, Brock Purdy, and what they do. The Rams are still pretty good. But, yeah, I think you guys take a small step back, but I still think you guys win your division. What are your thoughts for him, Mohammed?
Yeah, I honestly was kind of disappointed. I honestly thought the Lions would really go deep on the playoffs. It's kind of sad to see them, exit early, but they will probably take a step back. I don't think it'll be that big though. I still think they'll be competitive enough to win their division, like you said, Eddie. But it's definitely gonna affect the team, and I feel for you because the Broncos kind of lost some coaches too, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit too, because once you're good, that's what happens. You start, every team start poaching your coaches. It's just sad, but it doesn't happen to the Chiefs for some reason, but keeps happening to us, right?
Because everybody know, like, Steve Spagnuolo has gotten job offers, but he chose to stay in Kansas City, and everybody knows the only reason why the Chiefs offense was any good was because of Andy Reid. There was a reason why Eric Bieniemy didn't get a job. I mean, hell, look at Matt Nagy. He did. He got a head coaching job, went to the Bears, and sucked.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Everybody knew it was Andy Reid in Kansas City. But but to be honest with you, man, I actually picked the Lions to make the Super Bowl this year because I really liked what they did last year, and honestly, I was rooting for them. Like, my thing is I don't like, unless it's my Broncos. the only teams I want to see in the Super Bowl, if it's not my Broncos, are teams that's never won the Super Bowl, like the Lions, the Texans, the Bills, the um, the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Falcons. I want to see one of these franchises get their first Super Bowl ring. That to me is exciting. Watching a fan base that has been horrible for years, or just maybe not even horrible, but in their past they've made it, but they've never won it outside of the Chargers. I hope the Chargers never win one because that's funny to make fun of them for it, division rival. But I want to see the Lions win a Super Bowl. I want to see the Bills win a Super Bowl. Like I want to see you guys win one. And honestly, I know it's early, but I'm like I said, I'm still picking the Lions to win that division. And honestly, they should have won. Like who they get beat by? The Commanders this year in the playoffs. The Lions. They were the one seed. Because no, was it the Packers? No, it was the Commanders, I believe, because they
Yeah,
were the
I think it
seed,
was.
and yeah, it was the Commanders, and that's another team that's going to be deadly next year is the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. But that's my opinion on that, man. I think you guys will win the division. Honestly, if you guys make the playoffs next year, if my Broncos don't make the Super Bowl, I'm rooting for the Lions. Out of all the teams, I really want to see the Lions win the Super Bowl. I think that'd be. But I will say this: Jared Goff's all right, but I think you guys need to get a new quarterback. Like I don't trust Goff. Like he's a solid player. I just don't think he's gonna be that player to get you guys over the hump. I think you guys need to get a new quarterback. I know it's hard to say. Maybe, hopefully, Dan Campbell hires another really, really good OC and bring in Sam Darnold. You saw what he did last year with the Vikings, you know,
Mhm.
and that way he'll keep them out of Las Vegas and maybe keep them from being competitive, hopefully. Um, but thanks for your comment, man. Really appreciate it. Like I said, like, comment,
Thank you,
subscribe
brother.
on the video, and also hit the bell notification. We got another one here from Biggie Bronco. He's like, I don't know how to spell the kid's name from Ohio State. Beatties. Bigger, faster, stronger than Garrett Wilson. He's a better run blocker. He's a true number one wide receiver. Garrett Wilson is a good slot. I have to look up. I would have to look up film on the kid and just check him out.
Yeah,
Uh,
me too.
but like I said, I'm not for trading for Garrett Wilson. I'm just saying if the Broncos were, if that's what their plan was going into this offseason, like, hey, we want to trade for a number one receiver, that's the only one I would take. That is the only one I would take. But trade wise, but I prefer them. Like I don't, they're not going to take a receiver in the first or second round. They're going to take a tight end running back in the first and second round. That's just the way it is. They literally have no tight end one, have no RB one. Those are going to be their first two picks this year. I would be shocked if it was in the other position. If they do take a wide receiver, it's going to be round 3 or later. So that's why I think they're going to get a receiver. I mean, they got Cortland Sutton. Vele played solid. Marvin Mims, he's that Joker type wide receiver. But I feel like if they're going to get a running back this year, it's going to be in free agency, which is Chris Godwin or T. Higgins, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
the last thing I want to touch on, Muhammad, before I get out of here, because I got 15 minutes before I have to go pick up my wife from work. I want to get your opinion. To you, just for the season. I mean, we can go back or we can talk about previous seasons, but this season for me, especially, the Chiefs were fraudulent. They did not belong in the freaking Super Bowl at all. That game was, I mean, I enjoyed it. I love watching the Chiefs get their asses kicked. It made me laugh hysterically. I mean, granted, I didn't watch the whole game. I watched the second half only because my wife is an Eagles fan and she wanted to watch it when she got home from work. And I really wasn't paying attention to it too much until I came out here. It was like mid third quarter or mid fourth quarter, and I'm like, "Holy shit, the Eagles are actually going to pull it off." Um, but the Chiefs are frauds. Like they literally should not. Like the Bills, I said it before to you before the stream, dude. The Bills, the Ravens, hell, the Texans, the Broncos, the
Yeah.
Chargers. They would have put up a better fight in the Super Bowl against the Eagles than that crap. That was embarrassing. Like, I hate the Chiefs. I want them to lose, but for God's sake, man, have some dignity. At least put some points up in the first half. What are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know how they were winning. Well, I guess I know, they were getting a lot of help, but it's not like in the past where their offense was dynamic and you see all these fancy plays and all these calls and stuff. It's not. It's their defense that been carrying them, and it was just boring. And if there was one year that they shouldn't have been in the Super Bowl, it would have been this year, you know. But hey, it showed. The whole world got to see it in the Super Bowl, so
Yep.
they're not going to be
And
there anytime soon. Good.
this is my thing. I told you before the stream started, Mohammed, there was, I think, 5 or 6 games this year the Chiefs should have lost. They should not have won. And that was the Bengals game, the
Broncos.
Chargers game, one of the Chargers games, one of the Raiders games, that first Broncos game. What was the other one? There was another one in there. Which one was it? They shouldn't have beat the Panthers, honestly. The Panthers almost beat them. And the Saints. That's 6 teams that should have beaten the Chiefs this year. If it wasn't for controversial calls, at least 4 or 5 of those games, the Chiefs don't win. And you're talking about 4 or 5 games. You're talking about maybe 11, maybe 10, most likely 9. So, and then it got proven even more in the playoffs. Like the Texans, they don't get those 2 bullshit freaking calls for them in the Texans game. The roughing the passer, both those roughing the passers, where the Texans players like literally hit each other and Mahomes was underneath, didn't get touched. That play doesn't get called, or that flag doesn't get called, or the one where Will Anderson actually hit him right here in the chest doesn't get called. The Chiefs lose that game. If the Bills game, if they give Josh Allen the first down, which he clearly got, and there was a few other ones in that game, a few horrible calls that went the Chiefs' way that shouldn't have, they don't beat the Texans or the Bills and advance to the Super Bowl. Like I said, the Texans or Bills would have put up a better fight in the Super Bowl, in my opinion, than the freaking Chiefs ever did. And it's just frustrating because now the whole world can see, even the casual fan can see, like, oh, wow, the Chiefs don't get, those crucial, those bogus calls in the regular season or in the playoffs. They're not here. They're not in the playoffs.
Mediocre, yeah.
They are like maybe at best a 500, maybe just slightly above 500 team.
Eddie.
They are not a 15 wins. And people have been saying it all year. This is the worst 15-2 team I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. If Kelsey retire, which I think he might, they'll be lucky if they make the playoffs next season. That's going to be a big thing. That's going to hurt Mahomes a lot.
I mean, I'm not going to go that far that they don't make the playoffs next year. Like I said, I will go as far, though, to say they will not win this division next year. With all the stuff they got,
not going to happen.
They're not.
I don't see it happening, even with Kelsey in the team. I don't see that happening. No. It's going to be really hard for them.
He gave up in the Super Bowl, bro. Like if you watch his body language, the way he played in that game, he gave up. He was done. He mentally checked out. He's like, I'm done. So, but we got a few more for Biggie Broncos, and I got to get out of here, guys. Igba is the name of the wide receiver from Ohio State. Yeah. But like I said, I don't like you would have to take him in the first or second round. Otherwise, he's going to be gone, in my opinion, because I think he's one of the top prospect wide receivers. The Broncos are taking running back and tight end in the first 2 rounds. That's just the way the beast is going to fall. Another one here from Biggie Bronco, and then drive Tavon Henderson from Ohio. Yeah, that's one of the ones. I mean, Genty, I don't think is going to be there at 20, but I mean, there's like I said, this running back class, this draft class is running back deep here. Tavon Henderson reminds me of the Detroit running back Gibbs, but Tavon Henderson is bigger and faster. Yeah, but I think Sean doesn't want a power back. I think he wants a scat back. He likes those backs that can run, but also come out of the backfield and catch the ball. Like look at Kamara. He really wasn't a power runner. He was more of a runner that he could run the ball. I'm not saying he couldn't, but he was also the guy that could catch balls out of the backfield better than anybody. So that's what I think Sean Payton's going to go after. You're right, Eddie. Kansas City should have never gotten past the Texans. If it wasn't for the NFL's corruption in the game, they would have never made it and had to stay out of the Super Bowl. I said this a million times. I said this during the regular season. They should not even have made it to the playoffs, honestly, in my opinion. They were at best a 9-8 team at best this year. With all the wins they got this year, with all the bull crap calls, like if those BS phantom penalty calls do not get called, the Chiefs, I don't even think make the playoffs this year. They don't beat the Broncos, they don't beat the Chargers, they don't beat the Raiders, Bengals, they don't beat. I don't think they beat the Panthers or the Saints, which would have been really bad for the Chiefs. Like losing to the Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, that's one thing because those are division rivals, those are hard games. Losing to the Bengals, no shame. Joe Burrow's already beaten freaking Patrick Mahomes multiple times in his career. But losing to the Panthers and the Saints, two of the worst teams in football, that would have been ugly. So, but last comment here, and I gotta get off here, guys. Because the backlash for the referees, they had to come out and defend themselves. Yeah. After all the backlash the NFL got with all them controversial calls against, the freaking with calling those calls for the Chiefs, the ones that were literally not even there, like they didn't exist. They literally threw flags to bail the Chiefs out. This is what happens, NFL. This is what you get. This is the product you signed up for, and you put in the freaking Super Bowl, your biggest game of the year, because you kept bailing this mediocre team out. And then finally, whenever you got enough backlash because the fans were sick of the crap, and it wasn't just Charger, Raider, or Bronco fans that were sick of this crap. It was every freaking fan base. Yeah. Every NFL fan was sick of it because you were blatantly showing your favoritism towards the Chiefs. When you finally had to cut back on that, what happened? You finally call a fair game. The Chiefs get absolutely annihilated. What do you think would have been better? Having the Bills or Texans or Ravens in the Super Bowl against the Eagles? Yeah, they might still got beat, but I guarantee you they don't get destroyed like that.
Be more competitive. Yeah.
So, but any final thoughts, Muhammad, before we get out of here tonight?
No, I mean, I'm just excited. The Chiefs dynasty is going to take a big dip. They're not going to go to the Super Bowl next season, I doubt. And the Broncos are going to get better. Can't wait for free agency, Eddie.
Yeah, I'm excited. Chiefs ain't making the Super Bowl next year, and they're not winning the division. I'm calling it right now. The Chargers or Broncos will win this division next year. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs have too many holes, and they got less cap space. And Travis Kelce probably retiring. Like the dynasty for now is dead. Maybe Patrick Mahomes later in his career, like towards the end of it, whenever they have a new head coach and they're able to build this roster, he might go on another run. Maybe not like a multiple year run. Maybe like he'll get lucky 1 year and make it to the Super Bowl and win it. But as for now, the dynasty's over. Yep. The NFL is getting better. Teams are catching up to the Chiefs. Their own teams in their division are catching up to them. And they got a lot of things they got to solve this offseason before they even think about being competitive for a Super Bowl again. So, but that's it for us tonight, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back next weekend to talk more football and Broncos football. Like, comment, subscribe on this video, and also please hit that bell notification so you guys know when we go live. And we appreciate all you guys. Muhammad,
thank you.
See you next week, bro.
All right, take care.